Fuck, this will be done next week.
Hello and welcome to the Carbitrage Podcast, episode 192. I am Eric Berger, joined as always by my co-host Ryan Zanetsky. Hi.
Howdy.
How are you doing?
Got a beer in my hand. I'm doing all right.
Yeah, I hear ya. It was definitely one of those weeks, but I'm glad we're
I also.
at a Saturday.
This goes live on Monday or Sunday?
This episode, the first one, will go live on Sunday. Monday if I'm lazy, but usually Sunday.
If you're lazy, I will have a Fiat by the time this goes
Excellent.
live.
I'm very
Otherwise, I'll be in a Fiat on Monday.
I'm pretty stoked.
Yeah, I'm really
500s
excited.
are awesome.
I was making a poo, and I
As one does.
just checked up again. And I'm like that Fiat 500 turbo with the red interior.
Mm-hmm.
It was up 2 weeks later. It's at a dealership, so I'm like, how can I say no? So, and it was at Maury's.
I just wish Maury's would bargain. I wouldn't buy a car from a dealer that didn't dicker.
Well, they didn't bargain, but they threw in a lot of other things. So,
Well, what did they throw in?
well, they gave me the True Coat.
You gotta have that True Coat. You don't get that at the
Especially
factory,
on a Fiat that doesn't rust.
which is already undercoated. Yes.
But it's more of a matter of principle.
I know we talked about it last episode, but how many miles were on it?
60?
Okay, that's pretty low.
Like the one that you sent me.
Yeah, the one in Michigan, it looked nice and it was cheap, but
It
yeah.
was, but it was just one of those things where it's like, if this one, that's actually why I reached out to Maury's, because like if they said no, I was like, get that one from Michigan.
Sure.
But God, Maury's like, they said yes. It has a red interior, which is like amazing.
Red leather too.
Yeah, and then
It's a significantly upgraded
I'd
package.
actually much rather have red any other material other than leather.
It looks really good with a black exterior too.
Yeah, I mean, I like the way it looks. I just hate leather interiors.
You'll be
So,
fine.
If anybody has a red, not leather interior and wants to do a straight trade with money on your end,
A straight trade or a trade with money on your
a
end?
straight trade with money on your end.
We're going to have to work on your terminology.
I was
right?
originally going to say a straight trade. I'm like, actually, that's stupid. As I was saying it, so I'm like, and money on your end.
Yeah, I think the only configuration I've seen, do you know if that car has heated seats?
I know for a fact it does not. And when I go in
That's
on
pretty
Monday,
uncommon.
I
Yeah.
go in on Monday to close on it, I might see how much they are to throw in. 'Cause I really like heated seats.
There's a place in Blaine, I think, that will do it for $500.
Yeah, I know. I think that's what it normally is, but if I can get it for cheaper.
I've heard some issues of people not wanting to do it because there's an occupancy sensor in the passenger seat. But I've seen people on the forums do it, and it does not hurt the occupancy sensor to get that hot. So
Don't much care. Jana sometimes triggers that. So
ah,
actually, on my van, depending on what
I'm
direction
sure you
I'm
could just get a
turning,
cheater. But
yeah, on my van, if I turn right, like very soon after I start the car, the occupancy sensor will not read her, and she will not have an airbag for the rest of the trip.
my old Gasser Fiat would pick up 5 frozen pizzas. So I think it
It
will
actually works.
probably
Alright,
pick
good.
up Jana. It's a very large sensor mat. But
I need to think of a name for the car and a vanity plate. So
I wish you the best of luck with that. I can't really help right now because that was really kind of blindsiding. But
yeah, I know. But we need to think this over. I'm
either way,
thinking,
I'm very excited.
I'm thinking my vanity plate is just gonna be wah, wah,
Waluigi?
Waluigi.
How do you spell that?
WAH.
Wah.
And then the beautiful thing is, if that's taken, if my other ones will be WAH, WAHH, WAHHHH.
Wow. But in the Mario Party, how do you spell Waluigi?
WALUIGI.
So just WA potentially.
Well, it's WAH. That's how it's. If you actually, so if you turn the subtitles on,
Which I do.
on Smash, no, like on Smash Party, Waluigi.
Smash Party. They should call it Smash Party.
But it's Super Smash Brothers.
It's Mario Party.
Yeah, no, Super Smash Brothers, and Mario Party. Actually, both of them. You can
Okay,
tell
I've only played Mario Party.
So in both of them, if you turn the subtitles on, it actually spells "wa" with an H.
Okay.
So it is with an H.
So now you got to think of a name.
Well, short list: Guido, Cosmo Medici, and
Can you short it to Cosmo?
well, it would be just called Cosmo. I'm not gonna say the whole name. Like my van's name is Vanakin Skywalker. I just call
know.
it Vanakin.
Right.
But the
Do
other
you name
one,
every car?
yes, every car, even my parts cars. So that Civic that you towed that had the front end knocked off, that is named Stephen Hawking.
You had that car for
2 weeks.
yeah, it
And,
was
yeah.
no time.
Yeah, and that car was named Stephen Hawking because it didn't work.
Here at Carbitrage, we are very politically correct.
The other short list name of my Fiat would be Benito, as in Benito Mussolini.
I definitely understood that before you followed it up. One question I have, is it the metallic black or is it the straight Nero?
I have no idea. I think it's straight Nero.
Okay.
Actually, from the guy
Cosmo would be better if it's the metallic.
That would be cool. Well, it's Cosimo.
Oh.
Cosimo.
I would be lazy and American and call it Cosmo.
Cosmo. I mean, that'd be also a cool name. I need to think about something. I need something really good. So I'm going to have to go through my Italian history and come up with like a historical figure of somebody that I think's hilarious. Because like the Accord, I named Boris Yeltsin because I always wrote flat out and got horrible fuel economy in it, and it didn't work all the time. And that's kind of how Boris Yeltsin was in real life. So all my car names are actually like they actually have something to do with the car. So
I have no doubt that there is a significant amount of provenance or thinking behind it.
oh yeah, like my
Sorry.
my crest is named Sir David Attenborough. Makes sense. It's a grandpa car. It's very prestigious. It's
Smashing.
it's understated. It's a good car. It's a great name for that car.
God. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing about it. Unfortunately, we won't be telling the listeners about it until 3 weeks from now.
Yes, until
But
3 weeks from now.
Stay tuned.
Yes, but I might put a picture on the
Yeah, go ahead.
Carbitrage Facebook once I get it.
Hell, I might even own another Fiat 500 by then.
We
so.
could all have Fiats. We have a big old Fiat.
Everyone
party.
should buy a Fiat 500. I know we have the new one on our, what do you call it, collage thing. But just
collage
buy
of
any
pictures?
of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, just good cars.
Yeah,
This
this
is
is-
good vehicles.
This is our short list of cars you should buy. We should really change a couple of these to things you can actually get in the American market because right now it's only the Kazashi that's on that list. That's American.
So the first gen G70 6-speed, the Supra, and what else?
Well, the Supra's automatic, so
It still won our 2019 tie car of the
Yeah.
year.
I would say maybe we should do like an original Fiat 500, not a Cinquecento, but a
Like the new Beetle,
the
Fiat
new
500.
the one I'm buying.
Right. The 2008 to 2017, 18. Wow.
Yeah, they made that car long enough to
Long time.
that car could literally buy a teen-rated video game. Like that's a long time.
It's
for a
hard to
chassis.
believe that like it was in production for 5 years before we got it.
Yeah,
And it's been here a long time, and they have changed it just not at all.
that's perfect. If you're gonna make a postmodern body style, you're going to have to like put it into production for a really long time.
Yeah, and
because the
they're-
reason that they're doing that body style is because the original car was in production forever.
And I wonder, like, Scott was in Europe at the time when they came out, but I want to know, like, did the early, like, 1.2 cars, like, did they have, like, weird problems that had to be sorted in production that they just nailed when they finally put the second factory into production?
Vizio Racer actually, he was talking about some of the cooler like weirdo engines that they put in cars.
The
and
Twin Air?
Yeah, and he's talking about the Twin Arrow. He's like
That was a much later engine.
okay. It's like because he said like those are like have been bulletproof reliable for everyone. Like no.
I want to put one of those in an original 500.
I think that'd be a perfect swap. That'd be a really, really, really good idea. I cannot get behind that anymore because that'd be just perfect.
I think it's a multi-air engine still, though,
Yes,
which
it is.
means you can't do it because the only thing that will run it is the factory computer because of how they operate the intake valves. No standalone can run them.
Yeah, but you can still swap it with a factory computer. You just put all this shit into it, right?
I'm not sure if there's enough room in that car to put all the factory shit.
Well, the battery's placed under the back seat. I think the back seat lifts up, like on a Beetle. Mm-hmm. So you can probably put some shit under there.
It would be cool.
That'd be really rad.
A twin air power. It'd be so fast too. They're 100 horsepower.
Oh my god, insane. But yeah, so we'll have just a big old Fiat party. It'll be
Excellent.
great.
It's been a while since I've had a 500, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, you
anyway,
need more.
moving into episode stuff. First off, beer.
Patreon. Yes, beer and Patreon.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
going to do beer first because I am a sucker to routine, and that is how it's written.
Third Street Brewhouse.
Minnesota Gold. Gotta love it.
It's a good beer.
I brought some of that with to Michigan, too, and it was good. I'm drinking a Liftbridge Farm Grill because it's not really warm or nice outside, but this is the most breakfasty beer I had, and I started drinking before noon.
I do need to apologize for you, because I brought you a. I was gonna bring you a Trader Jose.
Traders Joe.
Trader Jose.
Traders Jose.
Traders Jose
Wow.
Dark Lager. That's what it's called.
Trader's Jose Dark Lager.
It's actually
Ooh.
it's a really, really, really good. If you like Mexican lagers,
I don't know if I do. You probably know.
You've had it before. Yes, you do.
Different.
Like Ledonia, Cerveceria. Yeah,
mhm.
that it's the same thing
Yeah.
as that. It's like a cheaper version of that. Really, really, really good. It is totally on par with their $3 Chuck. Or
Oh, nice.
$2 Chuck if you're Californian.
Yeah, or it depends on how old, too.
Yeah.
'Cause there used to be 2 here. I want to talk about Minnesota beers in just a sec. But patreon.com/Carbitrage. On this particular webpage, you will find our custom crafted, beautiful direct support method site for content consumers like you to support content producers like us. On there, you'll find 2 open-ended levels of support. They are all monthly, and they basically just help us buy beer. Patreon.com/Carbitrage. Thank you.
We love you.
Okay, so I want to mix the Minnesota beer thing, using it as a segue into my first topic. So
Okay.
I went to Michigan.
Yes.
The little crevice of the glove in Michigan. Bay City is the actual location. I started off my drive on a Thursday morning at 2 a.m. Drove the Tesla. I'm like, well, it's going to take a lot longer, but autopilot and free fuel. So ended up doing that. I am a little bit disappointed in the charge speed at superchargers with my car at this point, and the fact that I started when it was like 30 degrees outside. Also, my car didn't charge properly overnight. It blew a breaker 2 minutes into charging, and it didn't tell me. So I started the morning with a dead cold battery. So added an hour to my trip just sleeping at the Maplewood supercharger. Anyway, neither here nor
Perfect.
there. It was fine. I ended up stopping 7 times each way, which sounds like a lot, but it was almost 800 miles.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So-
Well, how much time did that take you, that trip?
It took me, well, I skipped a time zone in the middle of that, so it's harder to say, but it took about 15 hours
About 15 hours both ways?
each way
Each way. Wow.
to go about 800 miles. So
That's bananas.
it added 4 or 5 hours to my trip easily.
Would you say
Probably 5.
would
maybe
you
more.
would you say that trip was more comfortable in the Tesla than it would have been in an equivalent fuel and
Yes.
gas or car?
I hate stopping on road trips more than almost anyone else you will ever meet, and it actually
Yeah, I know.
contributes to like my road trip anxiety, which I get between 60 and 80% of the way to wherever I'm going all
Yeah.
the time. I get like
I know you're really
bad.
bad about that. Yeah.
Really bad. So anyway, right as I entered Michigan, I'm like, woo! So I had the car to do the rest of the work, and I truthfully had autopilot on probably 95% of this trip. So it was
That's good.
really, really great. And I would still probably take the Tesla again
Because it was that much better.
because autopilot is that good on road trips.
There you go. Because that's the real question. Is it's not like, hey, is this better for normal driving? Because we already know the answer to that. The question is, your EV, you have to charge it more than your fuel car, but is that better? And
Well,
it sounds like yes.
It is. Had I taken Mark's car, it would have been perfect because his car charges almost twice as fast
Yeah.
as mine does. He still has autopilot, and it's still lifetime free supercharging.
But yours
so-
is the one that people would actually be able to afford.
Right. And my car is, I will call it adequate. It is barely adequate for that trip because in the cold weather, it can do about 130 miles between superchargers easily. So that's like 80% to 5% state of charge with the heat on going at interstate speeds. But if you had a bigger capacity car, your threshold to get that same 130 miles is a lot lower in the battery capacity. So like my car charges really fast up to about 50%, and then it starts crawling. So
I looked at the BMW i3. They have that range extender on it. Do you think that would be a reasonable road trip car with the range extender?
the Rex limits you to 53 miles an hour when it's on. So probably
oh my God, no.
Yeah, no, and they don't have a heat pump. So the non-Rex cars
Nope.
are better. But if you had the latest one, which is a 42 kilowatt hour car, they do have DC fast charging. So you could, they're very efficient. So you probably could have done this trip with CCS chargers in an i3 long range, but you would have stopped at every CCS charger that there was.
Ugh. That would have been awful.
If you did the same route all the time, you'd be fine. But like, props to Tesla. Their infrastructure is a known
really good.
quantity, and it always works, and it's there. The Chicago Supercharger was great. It had like 25
Where
stalls.
was it?
7-Eleven.
Not where.
O'Hare.
Where? Oh, O'Hare. Okay.
Yeah, but it was a huge, just like concrete abyss. But it
I was
was
gonna say,
at a 7-Eleven.
If you you should see if next time you go through Chicago, see if the Lincoln Park Whole Foods has a supercharger at it.
Dude, there are so many in Chicago.
I just need to tell you about the Lincoln Park Whole Foods. If you've ever been to it, you've never been to it?
I don't even know if I've been to Lincoln Park.
So Lincoln Park's like in the north side of Chicago.
I know it's in the good area.
It's over by like Wrigleyville. It's just south of Wrigleyville or west of Wrigleyville. It is a 2-story grocery store. Mm-hmm. It's got 2 bars in it, 3 restaurants, and an arcade and a coffee shop.
Hell yeah, you had me at arcade.
It is awesome. Like it is. Every time we go to Chicago, like, I've been lamenting that I haven't gone to Chicago lately. And actually, that's one thing.
It is a fun place to spend a day.
That's like one of the things I was most bummed about with Whole Foods is I couldn't go to the Lincoln Park Whole Foods, or not Whole Foods with COVID. Is I couldn't go.
I kind of figured, yeah.
I couldn't go to the Lincoln Park Whole Foods because it's just like it's fantastic. All of their beers are craft beers. Like they don't have like Budweiser or Miller or anything. Their bars, each one they just service the local breweries that they get liquor from. Mm-hmm. And then since they don't have liquor laws like we have in Minnesota, you can just get beer like in the aisle. It's like, hey, you're in the pasta aisle? Look at this red. Like,
sample this beer.
Yeah.
Okay, don't mind if I do. Probably sells
great.
more food.
They also they have a cheese bar, which you know how I feel about cheese.
I do, yes.
Yeah. So they have a bar of just cheese.
You like
that
cheese
you
as
try.
much as Modi and Jada do.
Seriously, I love cheese. Like I every time I go to Whole Foods, I go and I get the little $1 thing so I can try different cheeses. It's amazing. All right, enough about cheese.
No worries. So anyway, I wanted to use this as a segue for beer because the guy I visited, or was planning to visit rather, wanted beer. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to go get you a bunch of Minnesota beers. Stuff you cannot buy. So I ended up getting predominantly sampler packs from Liftbridge, Summit, Tin Whiskers.
Tin Whiskers is a good one. And Liftbridge as well. Summit can...
And then I got packs of it. Well, here's where the story gets interesting. The only beers they really wanted to seek out were in the Summit pack.
That's the only ones they knew about, I guess.
No, they didn't know about any of them. So they were some of the last beers they tried because they were the stuff in the cardboard box. So like, yeah, I'll drink that later. But it was their dark brown lager or something. Okay. They're like, you need to mail me more of this because it's that good. I'm like, well, Summit is the oldest microbrewer in Minnesota, so I mean, it makes sense that they would have a good beer.
That's good. I'm glad somebody likes Summit. Not me.
But anyway, I got into Michigan on this trip. I think 2 charge stops from the end. Just as I was pulling in, he notifies me that his shopmate's wife just tested positive for coronavirus.
Wonderful.
I'm like, awesome. Great.
Yeah, we had a conversation about
this.
this.
I know. Yeah. I messaged half the people I know. I'm just like, what would you do in this situation? And then almost everyone's just like, go home.
Yeah.
So at which point, our friend Peter Francis, he bought me a freaking hotel room in the destination city across from the Supercharger.
Shout out to Peter for literally being the best person in the world.
He's the best troll ever. But like,
he's an amazing human being.
He follows through. I'll say that.
Like that dude is. I've had 2 friends that started looking for houses in the last week, and I'm like, just trust me. This guy's like, I tell him like, this guy is literally the best person ever. He's the biggest troll, and also, like, Mr. Rogers nice. Like he's like he's like the nicest person. But when I say
if
that,
you want a stranger to trust implicitly, Peter Francis is your
guy.
guy.
Like he's one of those people where it's like you almost don't like believe it's real. Like this isn't a real thing. Like you need like other people to
if
like
I'm in
verify.
a coma, just when I met Peter Francis, I'm still in this coma.
Yeah, like I'm like if I met Peter Francis just on a random Tuesday, I'm like, this guy's trying to sell me something. Like this guy, nobody's this nice. What the hell? Except I actually know him as a person. I'm like, this is actually just how he is. Like he's literally the nicest guy.
I think I met him on the original Polar Run. It's like, he's a weird guy.
He's just unbelievably nice.
He is. So anyway, yeah, I ended up dropping off all my K-Series swap stuff with my buddy Jake out there at Classic Daily. Mm-hmm. And I stayed in this hotel for like 4 hours that I was awake and then headed home. But it was really nice to take a shower just to wash the road trip filth off and then head home. So I ended up driving I put essentially 2,000 miles on the Tesla in about 3 days.
Wow, you should do an oil change. Oh,
I actually, it's on my list to do the drive unit oil
Yeah,
changes
so there you
because, I mean, it's got almost 84,000 miles on it now.
so it should be due for about the second one. I'd say every 40 for any fluid, other than engine oil.
There's a lot there, and they're filtered, so I think the spec is 100K on those, and I think it's probably okay. It's just a reduction gear. But, yeah, my plan is to change it because I'd like them to last forever. That would be cool. And I participated in their live streams of doing this swap mount stuff after the fact, so that actually worked pretty well
Oh, cool.
via Skype. But they've got the first set of K-Series E10 mounts done.
Dope.
They're just going to jig them up, powder coat them, and send them to me.
Oh, perfect. Well, the powder coating will cook off any coronavirus that's potentially still on there. So
Yeah,
that's good.
it turns
And it'll
out
also bake
they
it in.
got tested, I think, the day that I showed up, and their test came in since, and they were both negative, so it would have
That's
been fine.
good.
But I'm not taking that chance.
Yeah, that's one of those things where it's like, so I was actually having this conversation with some of my friends from the Stinky Nugget Meat, and
Sorry, listeners. But I almost spit my beer out, so.
but we were talking about how like one of my friends, he got coronavirus and it was like no big deal, and he's like a bigger dude, he's kind of chunky, he's got diabetes, like he's the sort of person that coronavirus should theoretically kill. He was fine. He had was a little wheezy for a couple days. But then our buddy of mine, Chris from back to the 80s, was like put in the hospital over, and he's a bodybuilder. It's just like you don't know how it's going to affect you,
Right.
and that's not a D20 role I'm willing to take.
No, especially like my parents are 68 and 70 now, and my mom had cancer last year and stuff like that. I'm just not taking any risks.
Yeah, it's same thing with my parents. So well, it's like, to be honest, my dad's like, he's an old hippie, so he's done enough drugs and stuff in his life. He probably will be fine.
What is this, a new kind of acid?
Yeah, so it's like I'm not terribly worried about my parents, but it's still one of those things where it's like
Why risk it?
on the off chance.
Yeah.
Like it's just like I said, it's not an ability check I'm willing to take. So
Pretty much. So that's enough of that. I'll keep you guys up to date on the K-Series swap stuff as it becomes a little bit more real. Probably sometime in the spring. We're working on steering track rods right now because they don't clear properly.
weird. All right.
But once that's sorted, I have two options that I'll just do. Like he wants it to be, just like I can sell this to anyone and they're not going to complain about it. Like
Yeah, and that's the thing is like he wants to do like the Hasport mount where it's like the mount works perfect every time. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it does. They fit really nice, and they should bolt into any E10. But the problem is we run a much more modern BMW transmission that's bigger.
Yeah.
So the
then you
track
run
rod, you either need to cut into the bell housing of the transmission, which I'd probably do. It doesn't matter.
But that's the thing is like Hasport, you don't have to do that with
Right.
their mounts. Like,
But the
you can just-
alternative
yeah.
is you can run a later 5 Series track rod, which dips down under the transmission beautifully.
There you go.
But the ball joint studs are shorter, so they don't fit through the pitman arm in the steering box. So you'd have to trim that down, which, I'm fine with, but it would be nice if you didn't have to.
Yeah, that's one of those things. Well, it's one of those things where it's not that big of a deal at first glance.
Right.
But, if you actually look at it through a consumer perspective, you and I could totally, if, say, Hasport required me to cut a part out of my Civic out to do an engine swap, then, that's not a problem.
Cut a half inch off this
I can
thingy.
easily do that.
Okay, sure.
But for, Joe Schmo, who, lives with his mom, he's not going to do that.
No.
He's trying to get this engine swap done, in a weekend so his mom doesn't yell at him.
Yep.
He's not trying to cut stuff. So, I understand where he's coming from with that.
Yeah.
And even with, Hasport, you have to smash in the frame rail on EFs when you run anything other than a B16 on them. And that's why they call it an EF B16 mount, not a B Series mount. It's just for the B16, because that's the one that's guaranteed to work with. Fun fact.
Great.
You just don't want to have a bunch of trash laying around. No. Speaking of
get
trash, and EVs,
Oh, great.
in the Netherlands, they made an EV out of trash. It's called the Luca.
Okay, let me open this up here.
It's actually really cool. It's really endearing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so they made a EV in the Netherlands. This is from the Technical University of Eindhoven. I cannot pronounce anybody in this team's name because they're all Dutch, and the Dutch are the worst language in the world.
They do.
But what they did is, the person's name is Matthias van Wilk, and there's a bunch of silent J's.
Yeah, there's, oh god, the I's and J's next to each other.
This is why Germany keeps invading them. But What's cool about this car is it's an EV. It's made out of trash, and it looks great. Like, it's actually a cool looking kind of sporty EV.
It's got like early '90s Grand Am style wheels on it, and it looks like a smart roadster headlight.
Yeah, like it reminds me of like the kind of the concept car, like kind of golden era of the late '90s.
Yeah,
And that's what this car really looks like. And this is made by a bunch of college students. Have never made a car before. They had no idea what they were doing, and they actually did a pretty cool job. It is electronically limited to 55 miles an hour right now. But that's because
is that just to preserve the battery, or because it's kind of sketchy?
No, it's because it can totally do whatever like you want. Like, it can go way faster. But in the Netherlands, to actually make this, you have to, and to be able to drive it on the road for testing, it has to be limited to 55 miles an hour.
Okay.
So what they're actually doing right now is they're working, like, the car drives beautifully at 55, and they're actually working on getting it crash tested and safety tested and everything.
That doesn't look like it would pass a crash test.
No, but in Europe you have limited production number. Safety regulations are different from normal cars, and that's what they're going to try and do this under. But the ultimate goal, if they can, would be really cool, is if they could actually put this in production. But what's really cool is, so like the chassis itself, like the chassis, all the body panels are bolted onto, is made out of PET bottles, so like plastic water bottles, and flax seeds.
Nice.
Yeah, I know, it's pretty cool actually. The body is made out of recycled ABS plastic, which is like your normal plastic from like body panels on cars. And stuff like that.
Pretty much anything. That's consumer waste. Yeah,
that's what people know it from.
Not anti-lock brakes.
Yeah, not anti-lock brakes. Yes.
I need another beer. Sorry.
But the all the wiring and stuff, that's all made from recycled wiring from old electronics. So you have like recyclable sheathing on it. I imagine they probably just resheathed like Mercedes wiring that was the biodegradable stuff where all the plastic came off. So you just had perfectly good copper wires that had nothing over it.
I was gonna say you're probably just like reusing old W202 chassis harnesses.
But yeah, so it's really rad. It looks way cooler than as any business looking, and their reason was they wanted to make sustainable EVs sexy, and I think they did a pretty good job being a bunch of 20-year-olds that have never driven a car or.
It looks a lot better than like a Gee Whiz.
Yeah, like this could have looked terrible. Like, I honestly actually like this car a lot. Like, it's really cool. And they named it Luca because Luca's an Italian name, Italian, cars, sexy, Ferrari stuff, and stuff like that. It's a cute name. So it's a good name for the car.
Big brain.
Good looking car. I am really hoping that they can actually get this approved for like production, because I think that'd be a really cool way. I mean, I think their idea with making like sustainable EVs sexy, that's the way you should go about it, because nobody cared about electric cars until the Tesla Roadster.
Pretty much.
Yeah. You have to have a sexy car. You need to have a halo car that makes people want it, because from the Tesla Roadster, people get the Tesla Model S. Because if they made just the Tesla Model S, nobody would have cared.
Well, even the Leaf, which came 2 years after the Tesla Roadster, was a mainstream EV. Like, it sold really well, but it wasn't mainstream appeal.
Not only that, it wasn't mainstream appeal, and also a lot of that stigma was broken down by the sexy cool car. And if this can be the sexy cool car, like, if they can take this out, like, I don't know, it's like a Nürburgring lap time or something. Or, like, out-accelerate something cool with a kind of cool-looking car that's affordable. Like, that's what you got to do. Like, and I'm not talking, like, you don't have to, like, beat the SQ8 or something at the track.
No, but I bet this would do a decent lap time if they delimited it.
I think Yeah, if you delimit it, you put a good driver in it, and if you can get, like, a sub-9-minute lap time.
I doubt this would do
sub 10 minutes. Sorry, a 9-minute range.
A 10-minute lap is still pretty quick.
That's very quick. Yeah, that's more than normal people can do.
More than a van.
It's more than a van. Yes. So if you can do that with just this car, like if they can market this in like the $25,000 or less range.
Oh, easy. It looks like. I mean, it has a 100-mile range, and this thing can't weigh much.
No.
I would like to know about its batteries, like if it had like recycled batteries in it and stuff like that, and like old motors.
Everything on the car was recycled. There was not anything that was actually made specific for this car. So like even those wheels are probably from something else.
Grand Am.
Yeah.
No,
it
looks similar.
Yeah. Actually, I think I remember those wheels from Gran Turismo. I think it was actually from like a Fiat. But anyway,
Yeah, maybe you're right.
I do remember putting those on cars and.
Oh man,
Gran
what a
Turismo.
great soundtrack.
Yeah. But yes, I think that's really cool. They did it entirely from old crap, basically.
Thank you, the Dutch.
Yeah. Thank you, Dutch people. You're fantastic. Yeah, University of Eindhoven making the coolest EV of 2020.
Yeah, that might be true. I mean, we're almost done with 2020, so we can say that pretty conclusively.
Yeah, I think I can say that like with honesty. Like obviously the car is not perfect yet, but again, like I said, it's a concept. If you see most concept cars, they look like a butthole. So this one looks great by comparison.
I don't see a lot of buttholes, but I do see a lot of concept cars. So
And a lot of them, when you look at them up close, they look like a butt. Like, they're
Interesting.
terrible. Yeah. Like they're all like those SEMA cars. There's just like screws holding it together.
I think I was scrolling through Facebook the other day, and I saw, I think it was Unpopular Car Companions or something, but a guy just posted an album with no caption, and it was walking through like a Hot Import Nights show kind of thing, and he took a picture of nothing but just the flaws in these cars. I'm just like, this is awesome. Oh, so I'm glad people still have a sense of humor. Anyway, I want to talk about it's called an all-new car, but I'm going to go ahead and call it an aggressive facelift. I wasn't
That's a
even
new
sure.
car.
It
It's
is.
a new car.
It looks like a facelift. All the roof line and the glass looks the same. But the Toyobaru GTBRZ86T got a second generation. We weren't even sure if it was going to get a second gen, but they've done it, and they've fixed, I think, all the grievances that people had, which wasn't many. Mainly smooth out the torque dip.
Yep.
Add a little bit more power.
Yeah.
And then
Make it a Miata. Like
pretty much. It's still a more practical Miata because it's a four-seater.
it's a 4-seater Miata. Yeah.
Well, we'll call it a 2+2, I guess. But
It's a 4-seater.
I actually kind of like the styling.
Well, remember when we first saw that one photo I talked about a while back, and we took a BMW 2 Series? I'm so happy that they changed the rest of the car.
Yeah. No, this styling, it's a lot of Toyota influence over Subaru, but
Yeah.
it looks really good, especially the rear end, which I should
I
try
also
to
I really want to talk about there we go. That looks really good.
It's got like almost second gen NSX taillights. I mean, it's really cool.
I also like that it's got the little duck bill that they put on the Supra. That's on this. That looks really good. That's gonna look really good next to each other in a dealership. Also, I want to talk about the front end being as low as it is. It looks great. Like that looks really, really good for being such an aggressive front end. That's fine.
The clicky trackpad, I hate this thing.
But I mean, the car looks great. I mean, people complain about not being fast. The only people
It's
do
plenty fast.
the only people that complain about that, I was gonna say,
Are
people
like
that
Camaro
can't.
owners.
No, they're people that can't afford it.
Or Camaro owners.
No, this car is like a Honda Civic, where nobody has actually driven one complains about it.
Yeah.
Like everybody that drives one goes, "This is great."
Remember in 2012 when we got all the Chris Harris reviews and all that in Top Gear? Everyone adored the BRZ GT86Z.
It was great. Like it's a great car. Like
Literally the only things that were issues was the weird torque dip, which you can solve with tuning, and the power. But even the power, like, it wasn't really a problem.
yeah, no, it's really not. Like because they give you shit tires on it. So
Yeah, so it was fun.
it was
100%. Just go balls out.
Jeremy Clarkson said he who comes last will be smiling and driving sideways. Like that's exactly what this car is for. It's a fun car. It's not made to be fast. Like, and that's the thing.
But it is still fast.
I am so sick of everybody being like, "Well, it's not that fast. It doesn't do the good thing on the Nürburgring. It doesn't have a
V6 Camaro
It
does
doesn't do
5.4 to 50.
So listen, this is the thing. If you want a car that's fast in the Nürburgring, you buy a crossover because apparently an Audi SQ8 is faster than this. But I guarantee you will have more fun in this car than you would ever have in an SQ8.
Yeah, and you're going to go back up for a second lap on purpose.
Yeah, and it's gonna make you a better driver. They got the SQ8. They're gonna continuously run a time that is faster than this and is drastically worse than its record time because they drive an SQ8 and they're too afraid to make it go faster. This one costs a quarter of the price probably. Of an SQ8.
And it's probably a quarter of the curb weight, too.
And it's a quarter of the curb weight, and it makes you a better driver because you can't just rely on the like mile long straightaway of the Nürburgring to like get you to a fast lap time.
would like to. You probably know the answer to this, but the 2.4, so the new revision of the engine, does that still have the same integral oil pump thing? As
Yes, it probably does.
Okay, but like this is the part I want to talk about the most because like you are gaining 13% more power.
That's
and
great.
20% more torque with this engine, the 2.4.
228 horsepower is not bad.
No, and it's up to 184 foot-pounds of torque, and that's up from 156.
Yeah, that
Is
huge.
more than 30 foot-pounds up. So it's going to be plenty. I don't know. I'm excited, but I still think this is a refresh.
Remember the old car, the torque peaked over super high RPM.
Yeah.
So.
But it also revved up really high for a boxer.
Yeah,
7,500 RPM.
So and another thing that really gets me about these cars when people complain about it, is it's a Subaru. This is the easiest car in the world to swap engines on. Like, you can put any engine you want from any Subaru into it. And because any engine from any Subaru works, that means that there's a swap kit to put an LS into an STI from the mid-2000s, which will work on this. So you can just put an LS into it if you're really complaining about it.
Everyone throws a 2J in these.
Yeah, you can put a 2J,
You can
put
still
an
do
LS,
that
you
if
can
you
put whatever
want
you
to.
want. You can put an F20C into it. You can put whatever you want into it.
K-Series.
K-Series, yeah. You can do literally any engine swap you want on it. What they're giving you is a platform to enjoy. And also, this car has a strong belt line on it, and I love that.
It's because the belt line is from 2012.
I love that.
The roof and the belt line, the muffler, it is all original BRZ, which is fine because it's a good car.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is perfect because it gives you something you can finance and drive very happily for 4 years. Then the oil pump shits out and you throw an LS in it.
Or if you are weird, or if you get a good deal on it, you can put STI engine into it.
You could, but don't do that.
Yeah, don't do
Although
that.
the new STI engine would be even an easier bolt-in.
Don't trust that.
I don't either because it's in the Ascent.
No, it's a STI engine that Subaru designed less than 30 years ago. So I will take EJ over the new engine any day for the next 30 years until they figure out that engine and it is then more reliable than a very late model EJ. Because it takes them 30 years to figure out how to build an engine.
I will say, like, the final year EJ25 is probably a pretty good engine.
Yeah, like, that's the thing with Subaru. Is like, I was a Subaru enthusiast for a few years, and I very quickly realized that Subaru, their new engines always suck. If you ever look at anything that they've ever made, the first, 10 years are very problematic. And they have another 10 years of kind of problematic, but you can live with it. But Subaru's honestly doing really well, trying to make it better. And then they finally figure it out. And then they discontinue it and make something new.
They should have put the Toyota 3-cylinder turbo in this.
That would have been absolutely smashing.
Because it would have made awesome noises. It's more powerful.
Yeah.
And
that would have been,
maybe it would have been more economical, but
that
it would have been
great.
It would have run forever. Which
also,
is
you know
cool.
what also been great is
What?
that they did that, and if it didn't fit, if they just tilted it over. Because I love when
slant
companies
brie.
just slant engines over to make them fit. Like the Hillman Imp is just a Mini Cooper engine that's 90 degrees flat.
Probably
it's
has
hilarious.
tons of oiling and bore
Oh
issues.
no! They never worked ever because exactly. They had huge oiling issues, but I think it's just hilarious that they did that. And all they did was reshape the oil pan. It's the same oil pump and everything, but it also burnt oil. It's just it was meant to explode.
I picture that being a pressurized oil system for the Mini, and they turned it into a slinger for the Imp.
It's literally what it was.
But anyway, I'm excited for this. It's a manual transmission. By modern standards, it's lightweight. It's 2,900 pounds. And
I'd say anything.
it's a good car.
Anything that comes in under 3, I'm fine with. If your car makes over 200 horsepower and you're under 3,000 pounds, you're fine.
I would gladly daily one of these.
Because this is the thing. The Cressida is 3,200 pounds, if I'm not mistaken. And that's 200 horsepower, and that's honestly a fun car to drive. If you make under 200 horsepower, you really want to make sure your car is below 2,500 pounds to be fun to drive.
I'm trying to think.
Because the Fiat 500 is right around there, and that's how it makes it fun to drive.
Fiat 500 is 2,350. The T is about 130 pounds heavier, and the Abarth is about 150 pounds heavier than that even.
But they're all under 2,500 though.
The Abarth is not.
Is that? Well, I guess that's 2,515.
Yeah, it's in the 25s. The E is 2,950.
But that also has
It's awesome.
all of the torque in the world. So
I drove it to York yesterday, and I'm like, God, these are fun.
You drove a 500e?
Yeah, I have Nick's 500e.
Oh, you have Nick's now. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
Corey's been driving it to work to see if it will work for his commute. But it doesn't sound like he's interested in how it drives, which is strange.
Corey?
'cause, yeah. He's like, I don't know. But it's on winter tires. I'm like, well, yeah, I get that, but
A Kirby blast. Also, you know what? He's also got the 500e mushy, gushy suspension as well.
no, it's got Madness 500e
Yeah,
specific
okay.
lowering springs, and it's got conies on it.
What
so
the hell?
It was lowered better than my car, but I don't
Why
think.
is Corey like this?
I don't know.
What's wrong with him?
I'm probably gonna buy it either way. I'm gonna
Yeah.
just lowball the pants off of Nick, but sure, I'll pay you X amount of dollars for a spare car.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So the Burz FT GT80B86, good. Thank you for bringing another one. We like it.
Yeah, we like that. Speaking of such, Toyota actually is making another good decision.
Okay.
And they have gone out of their way, at least Gazoo Racing of Australia has gone out of their way, to fix a man's terrible decision.
What has this man done?
Well, you remember how the 2000 GT only recently has become $1 million car? For a long time, it was
yeah.
kind of a forgettable Japanese.
We'll say 10 years.
Yeah, but I mean, like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
you
You could pick one up cheap.
Yeah. So, anyway, about 25 years ago, somebody decided to take a 2000 GT that had a problem with its inline six and make a bad decision.
Okay.
They ruined it.
And put an LS in it?
No,
Or wait, no, 25
they put
years.
they put a Rover V8 into it and a 4-speed manual
Why?
because something had happened to the 6-cylinder. But don't worry not, as Gazoo Racing has bought this car from that terrible person, and I assume imprisoned him. And they are now restoring the car properly with the
Wow.
correct parts. So
Do they have just a spare engine kicking around?
No, they're spending a lot of money to do this. But like this
So
is
they're
one of
going to
those-
make a new old.
No, they'll probably get another one. They'll find one, but there's a lot of rust on it. It's not great, but I mean, it's also a 2000 GT.
That's worth it.
Yeah, it's worth it. It's a 2000 GT. So yeah, they actually hot bathed it to bake
Wow.
off all the crap on it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they took off all the paint, got down
Look
to
how
the
many
metal.
different colors that car has been.
Silver. It was red.
Red.
There's some brown in there.
Looks
Yeah.
like it was originally red, though.
I think it was originally red. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. Somebody really ruined this car.
Yeah. Wow. That's a Oh, wow. Nice. Oh,
Yeah,
I would just drive it like that, honestly. I really like a good patina, an original patina on a car.
Yeah, it's just it's literally owned by Toyota,
That's
so it's like
The same reason I don't plan on ever even washing my 1600 when I get it running. Just gonna leave it like
yeah,
that.
just your 1600 looks perfect the way it is. If you can clear coat over it, that'd be perfect.
Oh God. No, I'm not gonna touch it.
But yeah, so they talk about this being a Bond car. I mean, yeah, sure, whatever. But yeah, it's known for being a very good the Japanese supercar, and it was entirely on par with Ferraris of the era. Because I mean,
I just love those shrouded headlights.
it's
Or
got
the fog lights.
those are
whatever.
fog lights, and then there's pop-up headlights. It's amazing. It's a great car. So I'm really happy that Toyota's fixing one man's mistakes, and they're making it properly good again. It's designed by Yamaha, so I don't know why some fool would ever have done that. I really cannot say enough that I hope that the person that put this V8 into it is in prison right now.
Well, I mean, because he threw away the inline six, which probably had only minor issues.
Yeah, it probably needed a carburetor tune or something, like a valve job or something that wasn't.
Maybe it
$1
needed
million.
like bearings, but
It was totally fixable.
that's like throwing away a BMW S14 in the 90s because you couldn't find a timing chain guide.
Yeah, seriously. Now you're just taking a big L on it. So I hope that they gave this man no money for this car. I hope he got maybe $80,000 for it, because he deserves.
I love how this
get
thing
robbed.
looked.
Yeah,
Wow, they showed the picture of the garage where it was. That's not great.
that's disgusting. looking.
It was definitely red
That was
originally.
very red.
Wow.
Also, this is in Australia, so that I imagine they put it in the hot bath to get rid of spiders.
I would.
Yeah, I would put it in the hot bath.
Whoa, that's pretty rusty.
Yeah, there's a lot of rust on it.
Wow.
Toyota's this era rusted very badly. That's why I didn't buy that Corona. Oh, I might still. If that guy takes my mega lowball on the Corona, I'll buy a Corona. But
I know all about mega lowball ownership of cars.
But yeah, that's about how rusty that Corona is. It's pretty bad. But I'm happy to see that this 2000 GT is getting fixed properly, and I like seeing a V8 taken out of a car and the correct engine being put in. It should happen more often.
Coming from somebody who plans to put a V8 in a 6-cylinder car.
And a 4-cylinder car. Subaru.
Oh, well, yeah.
Trig talked me into putting an LS into it. So, actually, I have a lead on something that might have XT6 hubs, so I can not die when I step on the brakes.
XT6 hubs let you put bigger brakes on it, or what?
The Subaru XT6 actually shared all of its suspension with the STI moving forward.
Oh.
This is why I like Subarus. Like, as much as they're a dumb brand, why I like them, because everything just kind of bolts together. The XT6 hubs, everything bolts together from an STI. All I have to do is get 1994, I think, specific upper strut mounts for the front, and that's literally the only difference. Everything else just works. And, like, the rear struts you just use from a Miata. But, like, everything else from this car, like, that's, if I can get these XT6 struts, or, hubs, the XT6 hubs will unlock the world for me, and then I can suddenly put an LS with a Ford 8.8 into the back of the Subaru, and then make it the dumbest car you have ever seen at Grove Creek.
That would be very cool, actually, especially if it was still all-wheel drive.
It would be rear-wheel drive, and it would just, I'd light the tires up the whole way down the track.
Well, yeah, especially if you ran the stock wheels. But you probably couldn't if you were running bigger brakes.
No, because the XT6 uses a 5x100 hub.
Oh, okay.
So, but I would still, I guarantee you, find like a 14x6 wheel. That's just, or 14x5.5 wheel. It's just worthless.
You're going to be shopping for all of the 14-inch wheels.
Yeah, I will have all the dumb 14-inch wheels. I'll have 3 sets of them, just so like every time I leave a stoplight out, burn off the tire, I can just put another set of wheels on.
Put a converter in it, so it's like, well, every time it engages, I lose traction.
Yeah, really.
Whoops. All right, what do I got next? Oh, wow, another Toyota thing.
Wow, this is a Toyota.
And
this is the Toyota
we're
episode.
actually talking about Toyota.
We should call this a Toyota special, this episode, because we've spent the entire episode talking about Toyota.
Oh, that was you, not me. Okay, good. So we talked about how Toyota is awesome in buying back 2000 GT that somebody had molested. But I
Yes.
want to talk about the new stuff that they're doing on purpose on their own.
Yeah.
And that is the GR Yaris, which... Can we just talk about how a company that 8 years ago didn't make any product that I would even look at on the road, and now they make the most aspirational production vehicle in the world?
This is how Toyota works. We have to understand this. Think about this. Toyota, 1968. Think about what they make compared to everything else in 1968.
2000 GT?
Well, yeah, but you didn't know about that in America. I just think about like the Corona. Very cool car in hindsight, but in the era, I can understand why people weren't buying it. Now, if you think about Toyota in 1980,
Yeah.
yeah, it's the same amount of time, really, between Toyota in 2008 and Toyota now. And you can see the difference in quality. And Toyota does these things where it's just out of left field. They'll be like, we're going to make good stuff again. Let's go make some cool things, boys.
You know that Yaris? Yeah, it's a pretty good car. Yeah, well, we just kind of threw away all of it and then put a carbon roof on it and then made a homologation 3-cylinder turbo engine and then put floating rotors in Brembos on every corner, put forged 18-inch wheels, R compound tires, lightened the interior,
Well, you remember,
lowered the roof line.
did I ever tell you about what Akio Toyoda did when he first took the helm of Toyota?
Was it the Harley Davidson?
No, that was Honda. But no, Akio Toyoda took his 1981 Corolla sedan and had every single person in the engineering and marketing department drive that car.
Okay.
And he goes, this is what we're making. We are aiming for this. This was our peak. Was the E70 Corolla, and I agree.
Surprising
Yeah, I know, right?
absolutely nobody.
But he had everybody drive it. And this is our DNA. We need to make something that is a progression of this. Mm-hmm. And that's why all their cars are turning great again.
It's pretty clear when they show, the juxtaposition of those next to it, and they reference like the Celica All-Track and things like that.
Exactly.
Like, the last time Toyota made an all-wheel drive car was the Celica GT4.
Oh my God. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because like,
The Venza doesn't count.
well, the Venza is a crossover. Also, the Venza is the coolest crossover. But anyway.
I saw a ZDX the other day. Do you remember those?
Oh yeah. I got stuck in the back of one.
What a weird vehicle.
I got stuck in the back of one of those at the auto show.
I don't know.
Like, 'cause I was trying to get out, but I didn't want to bend my back because I slept weird that night. I kept hitting my head trying to get. Yeah, so I did a trigger to get on the other side, hold my back while I inch myself out.
It does have a pretty atrocious C-pillar.
God, I hate that car.
It's just an Acura Cross Tour with the
You know
can opener on the front.
You know what I saw actually it was 2 days ago.
What?
I saw a modern Acura. I didn't know what it was. I was just like, I don't know what Acura is. It's an Acura. Like,
I saw a late model TL with like an architect driving it. I'm like, yeah,
it's just
yes.
if you told me that nobody would care about Acura in 2020
Yeah.
when we were in high school and
Yeah.
everybody would be about Toyota, I'd be A, thrilled, and B, shocked.
And C, probably not going to believe it.
Yeah, I'm not going to believe it. But, I mean, like, let's say, assuming I believe it, like, I'd be thrilled and shocked.
I wish I had any reason. Like, these probably aren't sold here. In fact, I know they're not sold here. But if they were, like, I think I would find a reason to buy one.
Yeah, it's one of those cars.
'Cause, like, you could-
Well, they're giving us this engine in the Corolla.
We're getting the 3-cylinder turbo in the Corolla.
I think so.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so they are giving us a turbo Corolla.
Which, I mean, I already recommend that car like
Yes.
crazy. In
Whatever-
fact, that should be on our splash screen, the
Yes, it should
Corolla
be.
hatch.
Yeah.
I
But
saw one of those in that blue the other day. I'm like, oh, I bet that's a
it's a
6-speed.
great car. It's so good.
fabulous
Well, Randy had the automatic one. Even with an automatic, it was good. It was really good.
It's one of those things I browbeat somebody to the car, and then when they need to settle on the automatic in the last minute, I'm like, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, that's fine. Like, you just, they need
Oh, I
this
didn't
car.
even think about that. I recommended a Mazda 3 Touring 2.5 6-speed to somebody yesterday. I should probably recommend the Corolla hatch.
Yeah, it would say only the XRS. Specifically that engine, because that's a different engine. It's the 2.4 non-turbo.
Yeah, I think you need to do that to get the 6-speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the XRS. So you should message him back and say.
But I think the Mazda 3 Touring has been around a lot longer, so you can get a really good deal on a used
yeah,
one.
you can get a used one for a lot cheaper. There's
So-
a reason I bought a Fiat and not a Corolla, as I was looking at them, and the Corolla is just like was $100 more a month, and it didn't make sense at that point in time.
No, it's not. Well, I mean, it's a way different car.
It is
They're
a way.
both
It's a
great.
way different car. No, you're right. For anybody else, but I'm like just hella frugal. So
No, for sure. I mean, I'm the same way. Doesn't seem like it.
I know. Well, I mean that's the thing is that.
But I've got a $600 E46 over there, so.
all your cars are very nice and very cheap. You're very frugal. It's like me with my collection of Japanese crap. Like it's.
You bet your ass this was all the cheapest possible way to get into these cars.
I'm just gonna add up how much money I spent buying all my cars real quick. So 2,000, 1,000, 800. I spent less than $8,000 on all my cars. Every one of my cars. I'm less than $8,000 in.
I am trying to think of the cars that I own currently that I've spent less than that on. Brexit 325 IS. That E46 XI. That's it.
Well, that's the thing is,
Oh, the M3, the E36.
but if I were to sell all my
Oh, and
cars,
the E46.
if I were to sell all my cars,
Yeah.
I may get probably $12,000 back for them.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like
You're
still
currently
very
doing
right side up. On
what
it.
I did in 2012, which
Yeah.
is just like I'm just like one at a time. You're just changing them out to nicer cars, and eventually you're gonna end up with the same number of cars, but they're all gonna be freaking mint.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing.
And it works really well. I highly recommend it.
I'm planning on probably keeping either the Civic or the Cresta. Those are the two that I really like.
I haven't. I've never seen the Civic up close before, so.
And so I just really like the Civic because it's the EF that I got for like way less than they sell for, and like right now.
That'll be the thing that if, the longer you keep it, the better off you'll be.
In its current not running condition, it's worth as much as I bought it for running. So, like,
It wouldn't surprise me if it's even more than that.
it's actually worth probably about $700 more right now. So, which is about half the value.
But anyway, if you have the means of picking up a GR Yaris wherever you live, just do that because you could drive it for 10 years.
It'd
Put
be
as
fun.
many miles as you want on it, and it will be worth more at the end.
Yeah, that's actually a top tip. Also, another thing, I like how it has a Sienna front end.
It does.
It's straight up just got a Sienna front end, and I'm a fan of that.
They they had to shape it that way because it was the only way to fit the cooling package in that
Perfect.
chassis.
Yes,
and the
good.
functional brake ducts are also there.
Also, I really like that. Another thing that I love about Toyota is that their minivan is like legitimately a Halo car. Like, it's not like it happens to be their best car, but it's like actually up there for one of their best cars that they've ever made. So it's very, very cool.
I saw a Sienna with a side exhaust, straight piped, the other day on
Rad.
494.
All right.
I'm just like, what am I hearing? And I look over, and there's just like a bendy exhaust pipe and a tip in front of the rear left wheel on the Sienna with a 2GR in it. I'm like, that would probably humiliate a lot of cars.
Yeah, that would actually be a legitimately quick vehicle. I love that. It's super weird. So I want to go back and talk about, again, another Toyota, actually.
Okay. Toyota special.
Yeah, it's a Toyota special. So
It really is.
yeah, at work we had a question of the week that popped up, and that was, what is the most endearing quirk on a classic car? And I'm just gonna expand it past classics, just kind of like older cars. So what would you consider is the most endearing quirk? And while you're thinking about this, I will give you my quirk. And my favorite quirk I've seen, I actually have a picture of it, would
This?
be, yes,
Okay.
on the, what the hell?
Sorry, this is Ryan's picture. It's a broken Google robot.
Can you look up a 1997 Toyota RAV4 two-door rear mud flaps? It's the rear mud flap on the first generation RAV4 two-door. Because instead of rerouting the exhaust or like making a different muffler for the cars that have mud flaps, nuts. Do they really not have pictures of it? Scroll down. They may be. Oh, damn it. That car has the mud flap, but you can't see what's endearing about it. Anyway, so.
These were sold as manual too, by the way.
Oh, perfect. Maybe you can just type in RAV4 two-door and just scroll through and you'll eventually find it.
This is fascinating radio.
Fascinating radio. But anyway, on the first generation RAV4 two-door, instead of making a different muffler, they just cut a hole through the mud flap. There it is, right there.
Inadvertently,
You
the
found it.
thing I clicked on.
Right there. They cut a hole through the mud flap for the muffler to go through. And I love that so much.
I clicked on this photo to make it larger, and it made it smaller, so I'm going back to this.
Yeah, this is fine. But I love that. Look how great that looks. There's a hole through a mud flap. I think it's so cool. And it's just like, it's so dumb. And Toyota obviously had the money to do something different, but they chose not to. They just decided this is the best route. And I think it looks cool as hell. And this is one of my favorite weird little quirks I've ever seen on like just like an older car.
So it's something that they like engineered around?
Yeah, instead of like just making a different muffler, which is like the way like anybody else in the world would have done it. Toyota's just like, you know what? Well, you might get the tow bar or the trailer hitch from the factory that would also block the exhaust, or like do a bend down muffler, like exhaust tip. No, they just have the exhaust go out the back and they cut a hole through the muffler. I think it looks so cool.
Any number of ways to handle that problem.
Yeah,
but yes,
I know, and they decided to do that.
They
Like,
did it differently.
it's just the weirdest quirk, and I love that so much.
Sorry, I'm stalling because I'm actually looking for a photo of the thing that I'm going to say.
Ano-
And mine is from the 90s because that's what I'm a product of.
Yeah. Well, I like the 80s stuff, but like this is just a newer thing that I loved. I mean, also another good one if you want to get like brand new cars, the Mitsubishi Mirage having the same door handle on every door.
That even the hatch,
Yeah, even the hatch. I love that so much. It's just great engineering. I think like that's the thing that's like really endearing about a quirk is like the weird engineering fix that they did instead of like what seems logical. Like it doesn't seem logical, but like when you think about it like a massive scale, it seems logical. I actually like that.
Here, I actually found an excellent photo of this. So the 1993 to 1995 V8 E34.
Okay.
Look at where the brake booster is in this engine bay.
Way up front.
Yep. So it's right behind the headlight on the driver's side.
Yeah.
So there is an integral triple pivot mechanism that goes from the firewall into a pivot, down onto the frame rail, on the frame rail, up from the frame rail behind the master cylinder and booster, and then actuates it up front. I've actually
That's
got one
hilarious.
of these in Blubsky to make it fit, and it's a really, really common thing that people put in a bunch of cars that they're V8 swapping where it just doesn't fit.
That's awesome.
Because
That is
BMW
great.
is like, well, we really want to put the 7 Series engine in our 5 Series, but we're not redesigning it until next year. So how do we do that?
So the 5 Series, the normal 5 Series has it up against the
it's
firewall.
right on the firewall. Yep. But the 530, 540, they all have the booster and master way up front, and you cannot work on shit in these cars because
love
it's
that.
so tight.
I love that.
But-
See, that's a great quirk. That's what I'm talking about. It seems like it's the dumbest fix, but then when you think about it at scale,
It
like,
works
it makes
fine.
perfect sense.
I sold a lot of those when I ran recycled BMWs because a lot of people were swapping engines.
That's great.
So that's going to be my off-the-cuff quirk. I'm sure there's a bunch of older stuff.
That
that's
is
just
a
like,
really, really good one.
huh.
It's like I actually had to think about it on mine because like there's a lot of like cars that I've had, but like they were just like designed super well, so they didn't have those weird quirks. Like
Right.
EFs don't really have a lot of quirks.
Right.
They're just like a perfect car. And then like same thing with like Fiat 500s. I can't think of any like weird quirks that they have.
Just I mean, it's just Italian stuff.
It's
That's
just
just how
like-
all the Italian cars
Like if
are.
it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Like that's the way it is in the Italian
I
car.
sit like I'm in a bread van. I'm like, yeah, it's an Italian car.
Yeah, it's an Italian car. Like that's how it works. Like, but like what I like of these quirks is like there's an engineer who has to go. All right, I need to figure out how this is gonna work. I need to do this for the least amount of money possible. Mm-hmm. And then they do that. It's just like some of these things. Like
Well, that's a dumb idea. Yeah, but did it work?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I think
yeah.
like with some of these quirks, like sometimes there are ones that like actually affect your driving experience. But in this case, like with both of ours, they're not anything that affects
No,
your driving.
you never know.
It's just something like when you look at the car, you go, "Wait, what the hell?" Like that's one of my favorite things is when you look at a car and go, "What is this for? Why is this like this?" And then you're like, "This all makes sense." Like another one is Subaru for the longest time had their spare tire under the hood.
That was like a French car.
Yeah, and the reason was because before they were all-wheel drive, they were front-wheel drive, and they put every piece of weight they possibly could over the front wheels to give them better traction in snow.
Sure.
And it's just like weird quirks like that. And when you look at it on like a 1994 Subaru Loyale, it doesn't make any sense. But like
Oh yeah, with cheese.
if you look at 1968 Subaru FF1, you go, "Oh, that's interesting. That's really that's a kind of cool thing."
If you understand the reasoning behind it,
yeah, it makes sense. But like these weird quirks, like that's like
Oh, I've thought of another one that's
What's
really
our-
late
what's our good
model.
one?
I don't know if it's a good quirk, but it's something that just you would never think. So the B8 Audi
Okay.
A4,
Yeah.
the S4 variant of that car,
yes.
the manual transmission versions for sure, maybe even the double clutch. The engine was as far back as they could put it
Yeah.
in that car, and right behind the back of the block, the front axles come through into the diff. But in order to get the clutch and flywheel on there, it bolts on to the back of the engine on the back of the crank. Then it like slims down like a push pin, and then it flares out again to full size,
So it
6
goes-
inches further back.
Like Coke bottle shape,
And then the
sorta.
flywheel and clutch set are back there. So
Weird.
yeah, it's like
That's super
it's like a
weird.
cable spool essentially is what it looks like.
That's so weird. Also, another good one. The Sunbeam Alpine. The early ones.
Yeah.
They actually had access ports behind the carpet inside the car, so you can get at the back two spark plugs in the V8s.
That's awesome.
Like, just weird.
Why does shit like that not exist?
Well, it's like because you literally would have to drop the engine out of the car.
Yeah, but modern times would be like, yeah, so you have to drop the engine out, big deal.
Yeah, like they just design it. So
Like
you can
no.
This engine stays in the car.
Yeah.
Like, so
If you're Toyota, fine, because you just don't ever change the plugs, and it's
Yeah,
somehow okay.
yeah, that car will be perfectly fine. You might have a stumble on a cold start on a humid, cold day.
Dude,
and that'll be it.
I've pulled original plugs out of BMWs, Iridiums, at 168K, and the engine's still running.
Wow, that's amazing.
I'm just like, okay, yeah, I mean, that would outlast some people's ownership of a car.
Any Volkswagen product.
Well, yeah, just throw Iridiums in a VW, you're done.
Yeah, you're never gonna need to touch them because the car
But
won't
I'm
last
just
that
like-
long.
Wow.
That's amazing.
I was very impressed by that.
So yeah, I think cool engineering quirks like that, and I think another thing that's like really important about these quirks and why I actually think that these are engineering quirks are the most important thing of cool cars is
Oh, I'm sorry.
that's why a lot of car enthusiasts find cars cool. Like, is because of those weird little things, and because like a lot of people wouldn't care about them if it wasn't for the fact that they were all different.
Sorry, I had a Google ad. I was going to try to show you the ECS.
Oh yeah, look at that. It looks super weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the weirdest looking clutch I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, the flywheel's just crazy. So
That's so wild.
that's a B8 S4 flywheel.
That is so weird.
Mm-hmm.
That's
That
dumb
is that
and
is
weird.
engineering around a problem right there.
Yeah, that is
Brought to
exactly
you by
what
the
that
people
is.
that bring you the 911.
You can tell it's the same company. Well, you really can.
Look how many bolts are required to put a flywheel on the engine.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. And that doesn't include what you have to remove to get to said flywheel.
Correct.
That is-
Also doesn't include the clutch kit bolts.
That is literally just holding the flywheel in place. That is unbelievable. Well, there you go. So yeah, I think our top tip to why people are into cars are because of the quirks. That's what makes them so
Pretty
exciting.
much.
Like,
That's the only reason we look at cars at car shows.
yeah, like every one of my cars, I own other than my EF. Well, I guess my EF, it's got the double wishbone rear suspension. There's always some weird engineering thing they do on every car that we like. I think that's the key to making a good car.
I think so
Because
too.
my Subaru is a weird spare tire. I get the double wishbone suspension. Cressida has the Supra everything into a normal grandpa car, which is hilarious. I have a manual transmission in a tiny minivan. My 2 Accords have flip-up headlights, and the Fiat is it's a tiny turbocharged hatchback.
Well, yeah, man, that's like a modification of a modification. But the reason the 500T exists is because that was when they were in the process of migrating all of the powertrains to a turbo 1.4 because it was
Yeah.
cheaper to do it that way.
Yeah, it was. Like,
But like it doesn't have the later 500 cars, you have to run 15-inch or bigger wheels because they have the Abarth brakes. They are Abarths.
yeah.
But like this one is legit a sport that
It's
they
just
just
a
put the
sport.
1.4T into.
Yeah, it's a great car. Like,
so it's very
I
interesting.
think with every one of your cars, too, you've had something weird. Like, the 1M is...
They're not normal. That's a parts bin car. In fact, when I go into a DMV eventually someday, that's going to be my license plate I picked. It's going to be parts bin.
That's a great name. 5 Series, we already talked about. And then
Yeah.
your E46 is...
Yeah, we'll talk about the XI next episode, but like the M3 is it's a Jamaican press car. Like it's super cool.
It's really weird.
It's got a history.
Like every car's got like a weird thing. You have the 1602, it's super low production number. You have the Z8, which is a Bond car, which is enough said right there. You have the 12-cylinder
story about
Mercedes with the reciprocating ball steering system.
so good.
Your 5 Series is reciprocating ball steering.
It is. Although I will say, like that M5, I don't know if it's just like that one happens to be that type, but like that has such great steering.
Well, that's the thing is they actually are really great. Like you wouldn't know that. Like
Yeah, if you told me the M5 had a rack and then I only drove that car, I'd be like, wow, this is great. But like the 850 has it, and it sucks. I was doing my mother's EGR valve on her 3 Series wagon,
Yeah.
the diesel. My dad came down too, and on his way out, he went downstairs, and boomers, they ask Alexa stupid things.
Yeah.
It's like, Alexa, is the Z8 the best BMW ever? And she said yes, and then supported it with evidence.
there you go. That's the thing. It is actually the best BMW.
I'm just like, she qualified it with the best BMW of the 21st century, but I'm like, that's fair.
Yeah, that's
I'm
very
also
fair.
impressed that you responded to a boomer with, I'm sorry, I don't know, or something other than that. Anyway,
So there you go. That's our top tip. It's the quirks that make the car.
and on that glorious, fruity nutshell, we will catch you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.